we're taking off the mask.
A warm welcome to you all for this afternoon for the press conference on the 8th day of IFFI 51. Today we have with us two international film directors in Jean-Philippe Weil of Running Against the Wind and Ruxandra Gitesco of Otto the Barbarian. Running Against the Wind is an Ethiopian drama, and director Mr. Jean-Philippe Weil from Germany is also the writer of the debut film partnering with Michael Walsh. He did his course at Film Production and Media Business University of Television and Film, Munich. He worked as assistant director and unit manager on more than 40 productions in cinema, TV, and commercial films. Briefly, the story plot is like this. Two friends from rural Ethiopia part ways as kids to pursue their respective passions. One brother dreams of becoming an Olympic long-distance runner, while the other aspires to be a professional photographer. They pursue separate ways, but their paths cross again as adults. Ethiopian legend and gold medalist Haile Gebrselassie done a cameo in the film. The film is based on a realistic concept for two orphan children from all parts in Ethiopia arrive in the big city of Addis Ababa with high hopes, but due to the economic circumstances, their dreams are often crashed and most end up in the slums, poor and defeated. These children live an unprivileged life, yet they survive. Running Against the Wind gives a clear portrayal of the vicious lifestyle that these children struggle with daily, neglected by both government and civil society. The film is shot in Ethiopia's native language, Amharic. So the next film we are going to discuss is Ruxandra Gitescu's Otto the Barbarian. She does direction and screenplay of the movie. Ruxandra is a Romanian writer-director. She is a graduate student of the Media Arts School in South Germany. She started to work in the industry in 2006, over the past years, her short films have been selected in international film festivals. The movie Otto the Barbarian was earlier screened in Sarajevo and Cine Est in Luxembourg and in several European film festivals. If you look at the brief synopsis of the movie, it is like this. Otto, a bright teenage punk, had to deal with the loss of his girlfriend. He continues to live inhabiting the wide space left by her, but in order to survive and forced to face his loss and guilt, he spends in the company of his music, distancing even from his regular friends. Actually, the fantasy figure warrior Otto the Barbarian always rescues the princess. In the real world, Otto was unable to save his girlfriend Laura, who has taken her own life. Her death leaves him isolated and unable to articulate his feelings. Besides Otto the Barbarian, Ruxandra has other short movies to her credit, which are Anna is Coming Back, Urban Groove, and Nina. These movies were screened under Best Ruxandra's movie Otto the Barbarian is screened under Best Debut Competition category in the IFFI 51. So, I will ask Mr. Jean-Philippe Weil to say a few words about his movie and the theme of the movie and the message he wants to convey. Please, sir.
Thank you very much for coming. I hope you had a chance to enjoy Running Against the Wind. It's a story of two best friends who are trying to reach their aims and desires. It's a story which is certainly a drama, but it's supposed to be a life-affirming drama, a feel-good film. I have made the movie being inspired by Salam Bombay in the first place. By the time I have written the very first draft of the script back in 2008, 2009, it was the time when Slumdog Millionaire came out. So I've been inspired a second time from India. And the movie is simply about two things we can all relate to. The one is friendship, friends we all have, knowing or unknowingly. And the other is a dream we have, knowing or unknowingly. And this is what the movie is about.
That's all. So being you're from Germany basically, and you are working for Ethiopian film industry. So what made you to go to Ethiopia and take film production there?
I've been, kind of grew up with Ethiopia. I've started collecting donations for Karl-Heinz Böhm's Ethiopia 8 back when I was 14 at 8th grade as a student. And I've been collecting donations to build a school in Ethiopia. And after raising 25,000 euros, I've been invited to Ethiopia by Karl-Heinz Böhm, the famous Austrian actor who has acted in the Sissi movies. And this is how I came the very first time to Ethiopia. And based on my experiences back in 2005, I have written the script of Running Against the Wind.
Okay. Anything you want to convey about this Indian movie inspiration to our people?
Yeah, I always felt that I've been in India before I came here the very first time, thanks to Salam Bombay. It really inspired me big time, the way it was made and the way it portrayed the characters. And it would be a dream of mine to do a remake of Running Against the Wind in India. I'm really convinced that the story of Running Against the Wind can be really highly emotionally adapted to India. And I hope that Running Against the Wind will be distributed all over India, and that there will be the chance to make a remake of the film.
Okay. So I will ask Ruxandra to brief about your project.
So Otto the Barbarian is a not feel good story. It focuses on Otto, who's a 17 years old a boy from Bucharest who has to face the suicide of his girlfriend, and the way he manages to deal with his feelings of grief and his feelings of responsibility towards her suicide. It is a story about adolescence. It is mostly about that odd age where morality is not the common concept that we are living by as grown-ups. It is that age where time has such a different feeling, and it expands, the present moment expands, and then time compresses and everything has to happen in the moment. It deals with mental health issues that are mistakenly taken as moments of that age that the grown-ups and society normally doesn't know how to deal with. It puts under discussion also the different masks that we are choosing to live our lives behind, and the way that we grow to live in patterns that we recognize around us without really identifying with them. So all these big themes, but mostly it is about adolescence and about fragility.
So, what's the message you want to convey through your movie?
So the film itself is not constructed as a discourse. It's not something that it's easily read by the viewer. It is meant to open up a dialogue with the spectator and leave some questions behind, not to give answers or certainties. And I think the thing that I most wanted to emphasize was this need of empathy with the grief, with the hopelessness of people that are in this kind of situations like a suicide.
Do you suggest any alternatives for coming out of the depression during such situations?
There are alternatives, or what do you mean? I didn't get
Any remedial measures you want to convey through your movie during the time of depressions?
Yeah, it's also a film that aims to bring awareness to mental health issues and depression, and the fact that this is a disease that is not easily recognized. And the film itself, we aim to construct an anti-cinematic experience, because I also believe that mostly this kind of thematics like grief or loss or suicides or murder are in most films very stylized and romanticized, and I really wanted to construct an anti-hero and an anti-film where grief really shows its ugliness.
Okay. Anybody, if you want to question, please.
Hello, I am Nikhil. My question is to Mr. Jan Philip Well. You said that you were inspired by Salam Bombay and later on by the Slumdog Millionaire. But those are old movies. Are there any new Indian cinema that have influenced you and your favorite Indian filmmaker? I would like to know. Thank you.
Hello, Nikki. Thank you for this question. No, I have very strictly forbid myself to move on, because those has been those really unique, kind of iconic movies for me. And then I stopped watching other movies at a certain point, in order to not start copying things from other movies, because I've felt entirely packed by inspiration, by early mid-20, at a certain time you grow up watching movies. You have watched hundreds and thousands of movies. So I decided for myself also, being inspired of my mentor, the German filmmaker Werner Herzog, who always said, it's not supposed to be the movies you watch, it's about the movies you make, And this is something I really, stick with for the last years. I totally understand your question, and I think it's about the timeless movies. You know, I think it's not about the recent movies, but it's about the movies which stay in the jargon, as we used to say, and I hope that Running Against the Wind is one of those movies. Considering this from Ethiopian side, we are all really proud that we have achieved this movie, which has been Ethiopia's very first official Oscar entry, and I believe one of the reasons it has this national impact was that I always thought whatever those other movies are, whether it's Salam Bombay, Slumdog Millionaire, and all these other movies which really inspired me, I always thought that it's super important to take them away, because my approach to the film was to make a movie which really works nationally, you know, so really Ethiopians can relate to in the first place. And that was my approach, why I didn't go any further in inspirations, you know. And the emotions are timeless, you know. The emotions are timeless, you know. Just remember this the old Indian movie. I beg you all pardon, but the title of the beautiful movie, the story of the brother and the sister. You know what's the title? Whenever you see in India, you see a boy and a girl who are brother and sisters, you call the title of the film. Maybe somebody can help me out with the title of this. Yes, yes, thank you. So it's about the universal things we all can relate to, and in Running Against the Wind, it's friendship and the personal dream.
Yeah, thank you. Any future projects or currently ongoing projects that you are working on?
Yes, there are several projects. The next feature film project is based on a real life story. It's the story of Terry Hitchcock, who has run all across the United States, from Minneapolis all the way to Atlanta, to the opening of the Olympic Games, 75 marathons in 75 days, as a mid-50-year-old person who has never been an athlete in his life, in order to raise awareness for single parentship. And yes, and beside this, since we are still here in India for quite some time, it would be amazing to find Indian collaborators to really make the Indian version of Running Against the Wind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Siraj Sayyed. I'm India correspondent for filmfestivals.com, which is based in Paris. Very interesting to know that you are considering making an Indian version. Would you like to make it completely new with an entirely Indian cast, or would you like to retain some of the material that you have already used in the film?
Thank you very much for this question, sir. I would really like to make it an entirely new film, based on the Indian producer who is still to be found. Let me really tell you how I felt when I watched Slumdog Millionaire. I did not understand why the movie has been in English language. I didn't understand it, you know? And still until today, I think it's a question which is supposed to be answered by me in collaboration with the Indian producer if we make it in Hindi, or in whatever other of the major Indian languages, or if we are making it in English, you know? And there are pros and cons for all these kind of things, and those decisions will be made for sure in order to make the best possible film. And the best possible film, in my understanding, is the film which reaches out to the widest audience, and to an audience which is really considered very carefully, you know. I mean, one of the contra arguments in making the remake of Running Against the Wind in India in English language would be that there would be millions of potential Indian audience, you know, who doesn't understand, who couldn't experience the story in their mother tongue language, which is something it would be a big sacrifice for me. But you see, I'm already very far away in my thoughts and plannings, which, somehow stuck until there's an Indian partner on our side.
In a slight continuation of my question, have you been exposed to, I came in a little late, so pardon me if you've already answered this question. Have you been exposed to a lot of Indian cinema, and if so, what are some of the most favorite Indian films that you might have seen, or your favorite Indian directors?
Yes, for me, I have mentioned it briefly that there's this one movie which inspired me in the very first place before and while writing the script, which is Salam Bombay. And while writing the script, it was the time when Slumdog Millionaire came out. And after writing the script, by that time, I decided very strictly as an artistic decision for myself that I stopped watching other movies, because I've been packed in the most positive way of being inspired, and I thought it's the one and only way to continue in order to create something unique, to not copy something, to really come up with an own signature, as we used to say, signature in filmmaking. And I believe all the timeless and ongoing important film directors have done this very early, and I have learned this as a lesson very early in life.
Merci.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to-
Any more questions, please? Any questions, please? Have you released this movie? Your film has been released?
The movie has been released in many countries all over the world already. It's released on Netflix Africa, and we are currently in search of an Indian partner, of an Indian distributor who hopefully screens the movie all over the country.
You would like to release your movie in India?
That will be the first part of the dream before making the remake for India.
Okay. So I can introduce you a distributor who release foreign film in India.
I really appreciate this, sir.
Most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My question is to Ms. Ruxandra. I haven't watched the film, but reading the synopsis and all, I came to know that it's talking about the depressing feeling or negative feeling and the way in which people express grief at the loss of someone. So it's a very personal experience, the loss of grief. So was there any personal reason behind making of such a movie, or if you would like to tell us about that?
I think in general there are a lot of personal reasons why making films. Otherwise we will not begin doing them. But yes, it is inspired from a personal story, which was fictionalized a lot and transformed. But mostly it is about an interest that I have regarding these cliches that are so used in cinema. This was the reason why I chose such a theme, to experiment a bit and to see how far you can go and still entertain without really entertaining. This is also the mixture of punk and the storyline. Punk music came as a vector, like I don't know how to say, but it dictated also the rhythm of the film, because punk is quite joyful
Associated
music.
with teenagers also.
Yes, has a lot to do with teenage, has a lot to do with no future, but not in the sense that there is no future, but in the sense of living the moment. So a lot of the rhythm of the punk was used in the way that the film was edited and brought together. Of course, many personal factors were summoned when we made the film.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. But I didn't understand if it discouraged you, the fact that was about grief, and this is why you didn't come.
No, my question was particularly related because people feel grief in different ways, and it's a very personal experience. So, for making such a movie based on such a theme, the emotions need to come out from yourself. If you have never experienced grief at the loss of some dear one, then you can't make a film on that. That's what I think. So that's why my question to you.
I think you're
Yeah.
very. I think you are right, and I would have been very curious to know if you could call a fake or not on the film.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any questions, please?
Yeah, Alexandra, I was happy to see the movie yesterday night, and my question is to you. The movie which presents, the movie starts, when the movie starts, already the girl has committed suicide, and the movie mainly travels through the memory and the clips that Otto plays in his laptop of the girl. And the most interesting thing I found about the movie is that the very unreliability of the memory. These we don't explain anything as such. And what was Otto's, the real role of Otto in the girl's death? We don't know. Even the last shots, we can see that the camera is looking back, and when the girl is hanging, we don't know what Otto is exactly doing. And there's a dialogue said by Otto that even if I saw her hanging, I wouldn't do anything. So I think that my question is, when you conceive the screenplay, because you wrote the film yourself, so how is the process of the writing the screenplay? Because the film moves not through a linear way. There's a lot of, sometimes I felt a Terrence Malick touch in some of the films, The Tree of Life, the grief, the way the grief is being articulated in your film. Also to the Khan's movie Acid, which deals with the same film, that friend commits suicide, and again the boy goes through all these pangs and all. So can you share something on the screenplay, the part of the film, how you conceived the screenplay and wrote it, and when you made it to the film? Can you share something about it?
So the screenplay was worked throughout many years. I also had the time for it, and it was a challenge. The way it ended up, not to say everything about what is happening and how to, in the same way, drive the viewer in a direction without leaving him very confused. I hope by the end of the film everybody has a sense of something, but not necessarily an answer. The script was developed in many workshops, and there were layers that were added after each draft. The main concept was to have Otto as an anti-hero, in fact, the girl is the hero of the film. She is the one passing through all the adventures, and her story is there, and her end is also there. Otto is just drawn in her void, the space she left behind him. As I said, it was constructed as an anti-dramaturgical story. I don't know if I answered. Yeah.
During the
Thank
COVID
you.
pandemic, you have released your movies in theater? You have released your movies in theaters?
So far, unfortunately, not. I mean, they are supposed to be out as soon as possible. There have been some in the UK and Ireland, as far as the pandemic situation has allowed it. Yeah, I mean, honestly speaking, it's. I mean, we are all in this together. Currently, cinemas are closed in Germany. We are expecting them to open back in March, maybe April. Simply nobody knows. Well, I think, I mean, there are ways to bring out movies to audience. I'm really glad that there's Netflix who is take on the movie in Africa. But I mean, in all honesty, I'm telling you that I grew up with cinema, like I think pretty much all of us in this room, and I hope that the movie can be seen in as many film theaters as possible. And at that point, I want to mention what a grateful honor it is to be here, being surrounded by a team of people who are making the impossible possible by the time of the pandemic. And I hope that the way this festival is happening will find international press coverage, because it is an example for pretty much every other major festival in the world. And this is what I really want to say from the bottom of my heart, because cinema is where the lightness comes for the darkness in our life. And it's really amazing that this is all happening here.
It's okay. No more questions? Okay. I thank John and Roxandra for being here and
Thank you for
addressing the
having us.
queries.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you very
having
much.
us.
Thank you so much.